In the summer of 1996, a young couple, Mia and Jake, set out on what they thought would be a blissful weekend getaway in the heart of Crestwood Forest, a place known for its breathtaking views, but also its spine-chilling tales of hauntings and unexplained phenomena. They were last seen laughing as they entered the forest, their spirits high and their hearts full of adventure. But when they failed to return home, panic set in among their friends and family, prompting a search that would last for months, yielding no trace of the couple. As the years passed, their case grew cold, until a shocking discovery in 2024, a long-buried entrance to an ancient underground chamber, revealed secrets that would forever alter the narrative of their disappearance and send chills down the spines of those who thought they understood the dark history of Crestwood Forest. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe if you love chilling mysteries, unsolved cases, and tales that unravel the complexities of the human experience. In the autumn of 1996, Emma Collins and Luke Harper set out on what was meant to be a weekend retreat into Blackwood Forest, a dense, sprawling woodland on the edge of town, known for its haunting legends and tales of the unexplained. The forest had long been a place whispered about in hushed tones. Locals spoke of strange lights flickering between the trees, eerie sounds that echoed in the night, and the mysterious disappearances that had plagued the area for decades. Yet despite the forest's ominous reputation, Emma and Luke were drawn in by its rugged beauty and the promise of escape from their busy lives. Emma, a 24-year-old graphic designer, had always been fascinated by the forest's lore. She had spent years collecting stories and researching local history, captivated by the enigma that Blackwood presented. Luke, a 26-year-old freelance writer, shared her curiosity but was more skeptical, often teasing Emma about her fascination with the supernatural. Together, they planned their trip meticulously, packing camping gear, maps, and supplies for what they expected to be a peaceful, if somewhat adventurous, weekend. On a crisp October afternoon, they left their small apartment, their car loaded with everything they'd need. They were last seen driving toward the forest's main entrance, a narrow gravel road lined with towering pines whose branches seemed to claw at the sky. Locals who saw them wave or nod in passing noted their excitement, unaware that this small gesture would be the last confirmed sighting of the couple. When Emma and Luke failed to return on Sunday evening, concern quickly grew among their friends and family. They were known for their reliability and careful planning, and their silence fell out of character. The local sheriff's office launched an immediate search, organizing volunteers to comb the forest, but the dense undergrowth and the vastness of Blackwood made the task daunting. Days turned into weeks, and despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of Emma or Luke was found. Their disappearance became one of the most confounding mysteries in the region's recent history. Rumors swirled that the forest had claimed them, that they had fallen victim to some unseen force or entity that lurked among the trees. Some locals whispered about the Blackwood Curse, a name given to the string of vanishings dating back decades, each case marked by a chilling pattern of silence and absence. Yet, no concrete evidence ever surfaced, and the case gradually went cold, slipping from the headlines but never from the minds of those who knew the couple. The forest itself seemed to grow darker in the aftermath, its reputation deepening with each passing year. Hikers and campers spoke of unsettling encounters, sudden chills in the air, indistinct whispers carried on the wind, and shadows that moved just beyond the edge of vision. The Blackwood Forest became a place avoided by most, a landscape of fear and unanswered questions. For Emma's and Luke's families, the lack of closure was a torment that stretched on endlessly. Their parents clung to the hope that somehow, their children might be found alive, lost but unharmed. Friends organized memorial hikes and candlelight vigils at the forest's edge, refusing to let their memories fade into obscurity. Yet, as the years passed, the trail grew colder, and the mystery of what had happened inside Blackwood remained an enigma wrapped in silence. Among those who never stopped searching was Emma's younger sister, Claire Collins. She had been only 16 at the time of the disappearance, but had since dedicated herself to uncovering any clue that could shed light on the forest's secrets. Claire pored over old police reports, interviewed locals, and spent countless nights exploring the fringes of Blackwood, driven by a relentless need to find answers. In the years following the disappearance, the forest became a testing ground for countless theories. Some believed Emma and Luke had stumbled upon illegal activities, while others speculated about animal attacks or accidental death. But the lack of physical evidence kept the truth out of reach. Blackwood's dark canopy remained unbroken, a barrier between the known and the unknown. As the decade turned, the couple's case was frequently referenced in true crime forums and local folklore, their story woven into the tapestry of the forest's sinister legacy. The haunting question of what had become of Emma and Luke lingered, unresolved and persistent. In the autumn of 1996, Emma and Luke's journey into Blackwood Forest marked the beginning of a mystery that would confound investigators and captivate the community for decades. Their disappearance was not just a missing persons case. It became a symbol of the forest's inscrutable power and the human desire to confront the unknown. The woods had swallowed them whole, leaving behind only the echo of their last steps and a silence that no amount of searching could break. In the spring of 2024, nearly 3 decades after Emma Collins and Luke Harper vanished into Blackwood Forest, Detective Sarah Mitchell found herself drawn to the cold case file that had long haunted the local police department. Sarah had joined the force fresh out of the academy and quickly earned a reputation for her tenacity and unyielding dedication to solving even the most perplexing mysteries. When a series of recent reports emerged, strange noises, unexplained lights, and fleeting shadows deep within Blackwood, Sarah saw an opportunity to breathe new life into a case many had written off as unsolvable. The original investigation, she discovered, was thorough but hampered by the limitations of the era. The search teams had scoured the forest extensively, canvassed nearby towns, and interviewed dozens of witnesses, yet no tangible evidence had ever come to light. The case file was thick with detailed notes, maps marking the last known locations of the couple, and statements that painted a picture of 2 young people eager for adventure but ultimately swallowed by the forest's impenetrable grasp. Sarah's first step was to immerse herself fully in the details, reading through every report, every interview transcript, and every piece of evidence that had been collected. She noted the eerie lack of physical clues, no footprints beyond a certain point, no abandoned campsite, no personal belongings. It was as if Emma and Luke had simply vanished into thin air. This absence of evidence troubled her deeply. It suggested something beyond a typical missing person scenario. As she delved deeper, Sarah also reached out to locals who had been involved in the original search or who had lived near Blackwood Forest at the time. Many recalled the palpable tension that had settled over the community in the weeks following the disappearance. Some spoke of the unsettling stories that had circulated, whispers of cult activity, strange rituals, and unnatural phenomena that gave the forest a sinister reputation. Others were more skeptical, but admitted to feeling a growing unease whenever they ventured near Blackwood's shadowed edges. What truly piqued Sarah's interest were the recent, unexplained reports coming from the forest. Over the past few months, hikers and forestry workers had reported hearing disembodied voices calling out at dusk, seeing flickering lights that resembled lanterns moving through the trees, and encountering sudden drops in temperature. A few claimed to have seen shadowy figures watching from the treeline before vanishing without a trace. These accounts, though anecdotal, bore a striking resemblance to the stories that had surrounded Emma and Luke's disappearance decades earlier. Determined to understand whether there was a connection, Sarah coordinated with the local forestry department to monitor Blackwood more closely. Cameras were set up at key points along popular trails, and a small team was assigned to conduct regular patrols. Sarah also arranged to speak with some of the recent witnesses, hoping to piece together a clearer picture of what was happening inside the forest. One afternoon, Sarah met with a forestry worker named Ben Carver, who had been on patrol when he first noticed something unusual. Ben described hearing faint, rhythmic tapping sounds coming from a dense thicket near an old logging path, sounds that seemed too deliberate to be natural. When he approached, the tapping stopped abruptly, replaced by a profound silence that chilled him to the bone. Although Ben had only been in the area for a few years, his account echoed the mysterious noises reported by others. Sarah's investigation also led her to revisit the last known movements of Emma and Luke. According to the original timeline, the couple had planned to hike a trail known for its scenic overlooks, but had never reached their intended campsite. The path was rugged and less traveled, and some sections were notorious for their confusing forks and dense undergrowth, which could easily disorient even experienced hikers. Yet, no signs of struggle or accident had been found along the route. Piecing together these fragments, Sarah began to suspect that the forest's hold on its victims was more than metaphorical. The patterns of disappearance, the recurring reports of strange phenomena, and the unexplained absence of physical evidence all pointed to something deeply unsettling. She considered the possibility that Emma and Luke might have encountered a hidden threat, whether human or otherwise, that had remained concealed for years. Her colleagues were intrigued but cautious. Some urged restraint, warning against chasing ghost stories or risking resources on unverified reports. Others, however, recognized the potential significance of Sarah's findings and supported the decision to reopen the case. The police chief authorized a formal review, tasking Sarah with assembling a dedicated team to explore the new leads and investigate the forest more thoroughly. As preparations were underway, Sarah reached out to Claire Collins, Emma's sister, who had never given up hope of finding her sibling. Claire's relentless commitment to the case had kept the story alive in the public eye, and her insights proved invaluable. She shared personal journals, photographs, and even recordings of interviews she had conducted over the years with locals and amateur investigators. Together, they began to re-examine the evidence through fresh eyes. One of Claire's contributions was a set of handwritten notes Emma had kept during her research into Blackwood's history. These notes referenced local legends of disappearances dating back to the early 1900s and described a series of unexplained phenomena that had been dismissed or forgotten over time. Emma had also speculated about the possibility of a secretive group or cult operating within the forest, a theory that had never been thoroughly investigated. Sarah found herself drawn into the web of stories, folklore, and half-forgotten truths that surrounded Blackwood. It became clear that understanding the forest's past was essential to unraveling the mystery of Emma and Luke's fate. The forest was not just a backdrop. It was an active participant in the narrative, its shadows concealing secrets that demanded to be uncovered. Encouraged by the renewed interest and the growing body of accounts detailing recent disturbances, Sarah planned the first official expedition into Blackwood Forest in over 25 years. Equipped with modern technology, thermal cameras, GPS trackers, and audio recording devices, the team was ready to challenge the forest's silence and confront whatever lay hidden within. As the day of the expedition approached, Sarah reflected on the weight of the task ahead. The case was no longer just about two missing people. It was about confronting a collective fear, a place where reality and legend intertwined. The forest's secrets had remained buried for too long, but now, with determination and new evidence, the truth was within reach. With each step closer to Blackwood's heart, Sarah felt the pull of history and mystery entwined. The whispers from the past were growing louder, and the forest was ready to reveal its darkest truths. In late May of 2024, as spring deepened into summer, a controlled forestry operation was underway on the outskirts of Blackwood Forest. The local forestry department had initiated a series of maintenance efforts to clear deadwood and reduce wildfire risks, coordinating with environmental experts to minimize disruption to the ecosystem. Among the workers was Cal Newell, a seasoned logger familiar with the forest's unpredictable terrain. His job that day was routine, cutting and removing fallen trees near a seldom-used logging road, until something unexpected caught his eye. While clearing brush near a cluster of ancient oaks, Cal noticed a partially concealed entrance obscured by thick vines and moss. It appeared to be an old, man-made structure, something out of place amid the natural decay. Curious, he cleared the foliage away to reveal a narrow opening carved into the earth, leading downward into darkness. The entrance was roughly shaped, perhaps a forgotten mineshaft or an old root cellar, but its existence so close to the forest floor was unusual and had clearly gone unnoticed for years. Cal alerted his supervisor, who immediately contacted local authorities. Detective Sarah Mitchell, still deeply involved in the renewed investigation into the 1996 disappearance of Emma Collins and Luke Harper, was notified of the discovery. The timing was uncanny. After months of chasing shadows and rumors, their search had potentially uncovered a tangible lead buried beneath the forest's surface. Upon arrival, Sarah and a team of specialists examined the site. The entrance was small but accessible, descending into a cramped, dark chamber hidden beneath the roots and soil. With flashlights and safety gear, the team cautiously entered the space, their beams cutting through the thick darkness to reveal walls carved from earth and stone, damp and covered in patches of mold. The air was stale and heavy, carrying an unmistakable scent of decay and abandonment. Inside the chamber, the investigators found several items that immediately sent a chill through the team. Among the debris were fragments of a tattered journal, its pages yellowed and brittle, and a delicate silver locket bearing an intricate bird engraving. The very same design Emma Collins was known to wear in the photographs recovered from her family. Alongside these, there was a worn leather backpack that appeared to have been hastily discarded, its contents scattered but oddly preserved given the conditions. The discovery reignited a spark of hope mingled with dread. If these belongings truly belonged to Emma and Luke, it meant the couple had ventured far deeper into the forest than previously believed, and that the forest might have concealed evidence for decades. Sarah's mind raced with questions. How had the chamber remained hidden for so long? What had drawn Emma and Luke there? And most unsettling of all, what had happened inside? The team carefully documented and packaged every item, photographing the chamber's interior and mapping its layout. The walls bore faint markings, scratches, and symbols that at first seemed random but hinted at something deliberate. Sarah noted them with a growing sense of unease. These signs suggested that the chamber had been used for more than mere storage or shelter. The possibility of ritualistic activity, whispered about in local legends, suddenly felt less like superstition and more like a grim reality. Among the recovered items was a small, corroded metal box, sealed tight but surprisingly intact. Inside, investigators found fragments of old photographs, some depicting Emma and Luke during happier times, others showing the couple amidst the towering trees of Blackwood, smiling but unaware of the tragedy that awaited them. There was also a damaged recording device, its tape partially intact but warped by moisture and age. Back at the police station, Sarah and her forensic team worked tirelessly to restore the audio. When the tape finally played, crackling and distorted at first, the voices that emerged were unmistakable. Emma and Luke, their tones strained and fearful, pleading for help. The recording was fragmented, with long pauses and indecipherable background noises, but the desperation in their voices was clear. It was a haunting echo from the past, a direct link to the couple's final moments. The evidence transformed the case from a simple missing persons investigation into something far darker. The chamber, its artifacts, and the recording pointed toward a grim fate, possibly involving foul play or a sinister presence within the forest. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on her shoulders. This discovery was both a breakthrough and a warning that the truth might be more horrifying than anyone had imagined. As news of the find spread, the community's long-held fears resurfaced. Blackwood Forest's shadow grew longer, its reputation further cemented as a place where the natural and supernatural collided. Some locals avoided the area entirely now, while others saw the discovery as a call to confront the forest's secrets head-on. For Claire Collins, Emma's sister, the chamber's revelation was bittersweet. It confirmed that Emma had been close to uncovering something significant before she vanished. Claire pored over the recovered journal fragments, which contained hurried, fragmented entries describing strange occurrences in the forest, whispered voices, unexplainable lights, and a growing sense of being watched. The journal hinted at Emma's growing fear, but also her determination to understand what lay beneath the forest's surface. Sarah planned a return expedition to explore the chamber fully and search for any additional hidden spaces connected to it. Experts in archaeology and occult studies were brought in to analyze the symbols and artifacts, hoping to uncover the meaning behind the cryptic markings. The investigation was expanding beyond traditional law enforcement into realms that blurred the lines between history, folklore, and the unknown. That night, as Sarah reviewed the day's findings, she felt the forest's presence like a living entity pressing against her thoughts. The chamber was a door opened after decades of silence, revealing a glimpse into the darkness that had swallowed Emma and Luke. The discovery was just the beginning, and the truth waiting in Blackwood's depths was ready to emerge, demanding to be heard. The dim light of portable lamps flickered against the damp walls of the underground chamber as Detective Sarah Mitchell and her team delved deeper into the space unearthed beneath Blackwood Forest. The air was thick with dust and the unmistakable scent of mold, but it was the strange markings etched into the stone that captured Sarah's full attention. The symbols were intricate, looping lines intertwined with shapes that resembled ancient runes, signs that seemed foreign yet purposeful. They stretched across the walls in patterns that suggested ritualistic significance rather than random graffiti. Archaeologist Dr. Helen Ramirez, brought in for her expertise in ancient symbols and cultural artifacts, examined the etchings closely. These markings, she explained in a low voice, are consistent with symbols used in various occult practices, often intended to invoke protection or bind a space spiritually. Her fingers traced the carvings reverently, revealing signs that had been deliberately carved over months, if not years. This wasn't a casual hiding spot. It was a place prepared for something, perhaps a ceremony or containment. Among the scattered artifacts, Sarah found a partially burnt map, its edges frayed and blackened, yet enough remained to outline a section of Blackwood Forest. The map was annotated with symbols matching those on the walls, marking specific locations deep within the forest that had never been documented on official charts. The annotations suggested secret paths, hidden clearings, and what appeared to be encampments or ritual sites. It was as if whoever had created the map wanted to record a network of places meant to be concealed from the outside world. Next to the map lay a small, battered recording device. The team had managed to salvage the tape inside and painstakingly restored what they could, but the audio was fragmented and cryptic. Between static and interference, the faint voices of Emma and Luke emerged once more, their tones urgent and trembling. At one point, Emma's voice whispered, "They're watching, the symbols, it's not safe here." Luke's voice followed, strained and desperate. "We have to find the circle. It's the only way out." Then the tape cut abruptly to silence. The chilling message shifted the investigation's focus entirely. What had once been a simple search for two missing persons now suggested they had encountered a group or force deeply connected to these symbols and the unseen spaces within Blackwood. The possibility of cult involvement, once dismissed as local folklore, now demanded serious consideration. Sarah's mind raced as she pieced together the implications. The chamber's hidden nature, the ritualistic symbols, the cryptic map, and Emma's recorded warnings all pointed to a sinister undercurrent in the forest. What if Emma and Luke had stumbled upon a secret society operating in the shadows, using Blackwood as a playground for dark rituals? The thought was unsettling, but the evidence left little room for doubt. Local historian Martin Graves, an expert in Blackwood's folklore and longtime skeptic of supernatural explanations, was brought in to provide context. He explained that tales of secret societies and occult gatherings had circulated since the early 1900s, often dismissed as myths by authorities. Blackwood has always been a place where the line between legend and reality blurs, Graves said. These symbols and the idea of hidden chambers fit into a pattern that's been whispered about for generations, but no one had concrete proof until now. As the team expanded their search around the chamber, they discovered faint markings etched into tree trunks near the entrance, symbols matching those inside the chamber, carved with deliberate precision. These signs seemed to mark a boundary or warning, as if to deter intruders or designate sacred ground. The forest itself appeared to be a living map of hidden messages, encoded in bark and stone. The deeper Sarah's team ventured into the investigation, the more the atmosphere shifted from one of curiosity to apprehension. The forest no longer felt like a passive backdrop, but an active participant in the mystery. The sense of being watched, reported by recent hikers and forestry workers, took on new significance. The recovered journal fragments offered further insight. Emma's entries detailed her growing unease as she and Luke navigated the forest's secret trails. She wrote of strange symbols appearing along their path, eerie whispers carried by the wind, and shadows that moved just beyond the edge of their vision. Her writing became increasingly erratic, a reflection of mounting fear and desperation. One poignant entry read, "If we don't make it out, know that something is wrong here, something that doesn't want to be found." Sarah shared the findings with her team during a late-night briefing. The room was heavy with tension as they considered the possibility that Emma and Luke had been caught in something far beyond a simple disappearance. The theory was no longer about them getting lost or succumbing to nature's dangers. It was about confronting a malevolent force, possibly human, but potentially something more obscure. The recording device revealed one final piece of audio, a chilling phrase repeated in a voice not belonging to Emma or Luke. The distorted tone whispered, "The forest claims all. The circle is eternal." The words sent a shiver through everyone present, a sinister echo that seemed to reach beyond the tape and into the room itself. With the discovery of the chamber and its contents, the investigation officially shifted gears. The case was no longer a disappearance, but a potential homicide intertwined with occult activity. Sarah requested additional resources, including forensic experts specialized in ritualistic crimes and psychologists familiar with cult behavior. The police chief approved the escalation, understanding the gravity of what they faced. Public interest surged as news of the chamber and the disturbing evidence leaked. The media dubbed the case the Blackwood Ritual Mystery, fueling speculation and fear. Local residents expressed mixed reactions, some fearful that the forest's dark history was now exposed, others skeptical or dismissive of the supernatural implications. Throughout it all, Sarah remained focused on the facts, determined to uncover the truth hidden beneath layers of myth and silence. The chamber had opened a door not just into a physical space, but into a shadowed world where belief and reality collided. The forest's secrets were no longer whispers. They were voices demanding to be heard. As dawn broke over Blackwood Forest, Sarah prepared for the next phase of the investigation. The chamber's discovery had changed everything, but it also posed new questions. How many others had been caught in this web? Was there a way to stop whatever power held the forest in its grip? And most hauntingly, was Emma and Luke's fate a warning or a prelude to something yet to come? As Detective Sarah Mitchell and her team continued to examine the chamber and analyze the recovered artifacts, a disturbing pattern began to emerge. Blackwood Forest was not just the site of Emma and Luke's disappearance, but a dark nexus tied to other missing persons cases spanning decades. Sarah's investigation expanded rapidly, drawing on decades of cold files and reports once thought unrelated. A breakthrough came when forensic analysts matched fragments of fabric found in the chamber to clothing worn by a woman named Margaret Halsey, who had vanished in 1987 while hiking near Blackwood. Margaret's case, like Emma and Luke's, had gone cold after months of fruitless searching. The similarities were striking. Both victims disappeared without a trace, leaving behind loved ones haunted by unanswered questions. Further digging revealed several other unsolved disappearances, all linked geographically around Blackwood Forest. Each case shared eerie parallels. Victims last seen near obscure forest trails, no physical evidence recovered, and occasional reports of strange occurrences. Unexplained lights, whispered voices, sudden chills. It was as if the forest had claimed them all, weaving their stories into an ever-growing tapestry of loss. Among the newly uncovered evidence was a diary belonging to an anonymous individual who referred to themselves only as the Keeper. The diary's entries were cryptic but chilling, filled with references to a secret society that believed Blackwood Forest was a gateway to another realm, a place where the veil between worlds was thin and where rituals could open doors to ancient powers. The Keeper wrote of ceremonies performed in hidden clearings and underground chambers, places marked by the symbols Sarah's team had discovered. The diary described gatherings where members donned robes and chanted incantations, believing their actions would grant them protection and power. There was also mention of sacrifices and captives, though the author's tone was detached, as if recounting events as a matter of routine. Sarah consulted with occult expert Dr. Thomas Wren, who analyzed the diary and the symbols found throughout the forest. Wren explained that the secret society appeared to be a modern iteration of historical groups that revered liminal spaces, thresholds between the seen and unseen. These groups often believe in harnessing energies from places like Blackwood, Wren explained. They see the forest as a conduit to other dimensions or spiritual planes, and their rituals are meant to maintain balance or gain favor from forces beyond our understanding. The investigation widened further as Sarah's team identified several secluded cabins and makeshift campsites scattered throughout the forest, many concealed beneath thick foliage and accessible only by narrow, unmarked trails. Surveillance and reconnaissance efforts revealed remnants of ritual paraphernalia, candles arranged in circles, burned offerings, and more carved symbols resembling those in the chamber. Interviews with local residents painted a picture of a long-standing, covert network operating in the shadows. Some townspeople recalled seeing hooded figures moving silently through the woods at night, while others spoke of eerie chanting carried on the wind during certain times of the year. Fear and superstition had kept many silent for decades, unwilling to confront the reality behind the legends. One particularly chilling lead came from a man named Robert Green, who claimed to have escaped from the forest's hidden enclave years earlier. Green's account was fragmented and haunted, describing how he had been lured into the group under false pretenses and forced to participate in rituals that blurred the line between faith and terror. He spoke of a watcher, an enigmatic figure who commanded the society with absolute authority and whose presence was both revered and feared. Green's testimony became a cornerstone of the investigation, providing insight into the cult's structure and practices. He described secret meetings held in underground chambers where captives were kept and rituals performed to protect the forest's sacred balance. His words confirmed suspicions that Emma and Luke, along with others, had been drawn into this shadowy world against their will. As Sarah pieced together these revelations, the scope of the case broadened from a missing persons inquiry into an investigation of systemic abuse and occult violence. The forest's reputation as a haunted, cursed place gained new meaning. Blackwood was a battleground between hidden forces, and its victims were caught in the crossfire. Law enforcement agencies coordinated efforts to map and monitor the forest comprehensively. Drone surveillance and infrared imaging uncovered more concealed sites, while forensic teams scoured the terrain for physical evidence that could tie suspects to the disappearances. The investigation also drew on cyber intelligence, probing dark web forums and encrypted communications where remnants of the society might still operate. Despite the mounting evidence, many questions remained unanswered. The true extent of the cult's influence was still unclear, and the identity of the elusive Watcher remained a mystery. Sarah knew that uncovering the leader's identity was crucial to dismantling the network and bringing justice to the victims. Meanwhile, the psychological toll on the investigation team was palpable. The stories they uncovered were harrowing, revealing the depths of human cruelty cloaked in the guise of spiritual pursuit. Sarah often found herself haunted by Emma's voice on the recovered tape, the desperation in her plea a reminder of the stakes involved. In the midst of the turmoil, Claire Collins remained a steadfast presence, her resolve unshaken. She worked closely with Sarah, advocating for the victims and pushing for transparency in the investigation. Claire's tireless efforts kept public attention focused on the case, ensuring that the forest's dark history would not be forgotten or dismissed. As the investigation pressed forward, new leads emerged almost daily. Witnesses came forward with stories they had kept hidden out of fear, and physical evidence slowly began to form a more complete picture of the cult's operations. The network was vast, entrenched, and dangerous, but Sarah was determined to expose it. The forest's secrets were unraveling, thread by thread, revealing a web of ritualistic violence that had claimed too many lives. Blackwood was no longer just a place of legend. It was a crime scene, a prison, and a battleground. And within its depths lay the hope that the missing might finally be found, and the silence that had long shrouded the forest might be broken. Detective Sarah Mitchell narrowed her focus to a man whose name had surfaced repeatedly in interviews and tip-offs: Edgar Hale. A recluse in his late 60s, Edgar had lived on the fringes of Blackwood Forest for decades, occupying a dilapidated cabin that locals whispered about but rarely approached. His past was shrouded in mystery. Few knew much about him, but rumors abounded, stories of strange behaviors, reclusive tendencies, and a history intertwined with the forest's darkest tales. Sarah's team began piecing together Edgar's movements, uncovering a trail of odd incidents and disappearances linked to areas near his cabin. A former neighbor recounted how Edgar had once been reported for trespassing in protected parts of the forest, often seen carrying unidentifiable objects deep into the woods. Others recalled strange noises and flickering lights emanating from his property late at night. With a warrant secured, Sarah led a carefully planned raid on Edgar Hale's cabin. The approach was tense. The forest seemed to close in around them, shadows thickening as the team advanced. Inside, the cabin was cluttered and unkempt, but what they discovered was far more disturbing than mere hoarding. Hidden beneath piles of debris were ritualistic items, carved wooden idols, faded photographs of missing persons, and journals filled with detailed accounts of ceremonies conducted deep in the forest. The journals described rites performed to honor the forest's spirit and maintain its sacred balance, language eerily similar to that found in the diary of the keeper. Among the pages were sketches of symbols matching those found etched in the underground chamber. Further exploration of the property revealed concealed compartments and hidden rooms. One such room contained a collection of relics, including animal bones arranged in deliberate patterns and candles burnt down to stubs, evidence of recent use. On a work table lay a map annotated with cryptic markings, paths, ritual sites, and areas labeled with ominous titles like The Hollow and The Circle. During the search, Sarah uncovered a stack of letters addressed to an unknown recipient referred to only as the Watcher. The correspondence was formal yet cryptic, discussing plans for upcoming rituals and the protection of the forest's secrets. The identity of the Watcher remained elusive, but the letters implied a hierarchical structure within the group, with Edgar acting as a key operative or lieutenant. Interviews with locals added layers to the investigation. Many hesitated to speak openly, but described a figure known as the Watcher as a shadowy leader who controlled the cult's activities from behind the scenes. The Watcher was said to be a master manipulator, someone who maintained power through fear and secrecy, orchestrating abductions and rituals while remaining unseen. Sarah's team discovered several hidden cabins scattered throughout Blackwood Forest, many of which bore the same ritualistic symbols. These sites appeared to be nodes within a covert network, connected by secret trails and guarded by those loyal to the cult. Surveillance footage captured hooded figures moving between these locations at unusual hours, further confirming the society's ongoing activity. The investigation revealed a chilling pattern. Edgar Hale was not acting alone. His role seemed to be that of an enforcer or ritual specialist, but the true leadership, the Watcher, operated from the shadows, possibly beyond the forest itself. This elusive figure had managed to evade detection for years, maintaining control over the cult's operations and ensuring the silence of its victims. Sarah intensified efforts to identify the Watcher, examining financial records, communications, and surveillance data. The trail led to several suspects, each connected to the local area, but possessing alibis or enough distance to complicate a direct link. The Watcher's identity became the central mystery, the key to dismantling the cult and rescuing any potential survivors still held captive. Meanwhile, forensic teams analyzed the relics and symbols found at Edgar's cabin. Experts in occult practices provided insights into the ritual's significance, suggesting they were designed to invoke protection for the cult members and to bind their captives psychologically. The ceremonies appeared to blend ancient folklore with modern manipulation, creating a system that preyed on fear and belief. The psychological impact on Edgar was evident during interrogation. Though initially evasive, he eventually confessed to his involvement, describing his belief in the cult's mission to preserve the sanctity of Blackwood. His demeanor was unsettling, a mixture of conviction and detachment that hinted at deep indoctrination. Yet, he refused to reveal the Watcher's identity, claiming loyalty and fear of retribution. Sarah knew that breaking Edgar's silence was crucial, but also understood the risks. The cult's reach extended beyond the forest, and any misstep could endanger ongoing operations and potential rescues. The investigation required patience and precision, balancing the urgency to act with the need to gather irrefutable evidence. The community's response to Edgar's arrest was mixed. Some felt a sense of relief, believing a dangerous figure had finally been apprehended. Others remained fearful, aware that the true power behind the cult remained at large. The forest's shadow lingered, intensified by the knowledge that the Watcher was still out there, watching, waiting. Sarah's team prepared for the next phase, tracking down the Watcher and bringing the entire network to justice. The discovery of Edgar Hale's role was a pivotal moment, exposing the cult's inner workings and confirming the existence of a covert hierarchy. The Forest's secret society was no longer an abstract legend but a tangible threat that could be confronted and dismantled. As the investigation deepened, Sarah reflected on the magnitude of what lay ahead. Blackwood Forest was more than a mystery. It was a battleground of hidden forces, human and otherwise, and the key to ending its reign of terror was finally within reach. The Watcher's identity was the missing piece, and finding it would require all of Sarah's skill, resolve, and courage. Detective Sarah Mitchell's investigation into Edgar Hale had opened a door into the cult's inner workings, but it was just the beginning. As she dug deeper, a shadowy figure emerged from the periphery, someone who had skillfully avoided the spotlight, yet was undeniably central to the network's operations. The elusive Watcher was no longer just a whispered name. Sarah was determined to unmask this person before more lives were lost. The more Sarah examined Edgar's journals and correspondence, the clearer it became that the Watcher held a position of absolute authority, orchestrating the cult's activities with a chilling mixture of charisma and ruthlessness. Edgar's writings hinted at a man who was both feared and revered, a puppeteer pulling strings behind a veil of secrecy. The Watcher's reach extended beyond Blackwood Forest, with connections to influential individuals and a cadre of devoted followers. Sarah's team intensified surveillance efforts, deploying drones equipped with thermal imaging to monitor known cult sites and track any suspicious movement. Over several nights, the footage revealed hooded figures navigating the forest along hidden trails, carrying items consistent with ritual use. On one occasion, a figure matching Edgar's description led a procession toward a secluded cabin deep within the woods, where faint chanting was recorded by sensitive audio equipment planted nearby. The discovery of a small, concealed room inside that cabin was among the most disturbing finds yet. Covering its walls were photographs, maps, and documents meticulously arranged, a shrine of sorts, cataloging past victims, including Emma and Luke. The room contained audio recordings of ceremonies, cryptic writings, and symbols that mirrored those etched in the underground chamber. It was a chilling archive, a testament to the cult's systematic operations and their obsession with preserving their twisted history. Among the recovered materials was a journal belonging to a young woman named Hannah Clare, who had disappeared in 1998 under circumstances eerily similar to Emma and Luke's case. Hannah bore a striking resemblance to Emma, a fact that did not escape Sarah's notice. Her diary detailed her gradual entanglement with the cult, initial curiosity giving way to fear as she realized the group's true nature. Her entries described recruitment tactics, psychological manipulation, and the suffocating control exerted by the Watcher and his lieutenants. Hannah's writings were a window into the cult's psychological grip on its victims. She wrote of isolation, confusion, and the slow erosion of her will, punctuated by fleeting moments of hope and resistance. Her final entry was a desperate plea for rescue, a coded message embedded within the text that Sarah's team painstakingly decrypted. It spoke of a hidden location called the Hollow, where captives were held and rituals performed. The investigation took a pivotal turn when Sarah received a tip from an informant who claimed to know the Watcher's identity. The informant, a former cult member who had escaped years earlier, provided detailed descriptions of the Watcher's appearance, habits, and network of influence. Although the information was valuable, the informant's fear was palpable. They warned that the Watcher was cunning and dangerous, capable of evading capture through manipulation and intimidation. Using this new lead, Sarah's team cross-referenced financial transactions, surveillance footage, and local records. The pieces began to fit together, pointing toward a man named Emery Talcott, a figure with a shadowy past and rumored connections to multiple unsolved disappearances. Emery was known in certain circles as a charismatic but enigmatic individual, capable of exerting profound influence over those around him. Further investigation revealed that Emery had been involved in sealing off mine entrances and abandoned structures around Blackwood, including the mine shaft where Emma and Luke's belongings were found. This suggested a deliberate effort to conceal evidence and maintain control over the cult's hidden spaces. Sarah realized that Emery was more than just a leader. He was a master of concealment and psychological warfare. A breakthrough came when Sarah's team discovered a micro-cassette tape recorded by Emma Collins herself, hidden within one of the recovered backpacks. The tape captured Emma's voice, raw and trembling, as she detailed her captivity and the psychological torment inflicted by Emery and his followers. She described the constant surveillance, the manipulative rituals, and the desperate attempts to communicate with the outside world. Emma's words were both a testimony and a cry for help, a haunting reminder of the human cost behind the investigation. Armed with this evidence, Sarah coordinated a covert operation to apprehend Emery Talcott. The team surveilled his known locations, monitoring movements and communications with the assistance of cybercrime specialists. The operation was fraught with tension. Emery's network was extensive, and the risk of alerting him was high. When the moment came, the raid targeted a remote compound deep within Blackwood Forest. The team moved swiftly, encountering resistance from cult members, but managing to secure the area. Inside, they found several survivors, including a young woman believed to be Hannah Claire's sister, who had been groomed for initiation. The survivors' testimonies painted a harrowing picture of captivity, psychological abuse, and the cult's relentless indoctrination. Emery Talcott was arrested during the raid, his demeanor cold and calculating. Interrogations revealed his role in orchestrating the abductions, rituals, and the systematic control of victims. He described the cult as a guardian of tradition, justifying the horrific acts as necessary sacrifices to protect Blackwood's secrets. His chilling rationalizations underscored the depth of his fanaticism and manipulative power. The investigation uncovered a disturbing pattern of grooming, coercion, and psychological manipulation that had persisted for decades. Emery's meticulous documentation of his victims, treating them as trophies, revealed a disturbing aspect of his control, a twisted desire to immortalize his dominance. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to piece together the timeline of events, linking Emery to numerous disappearances and uncovering the extent of the cult's reach. The operation not only led to the rescue of victims, but also brought closure to families long haunted by uncertainty. As the dust settled, Sarah reflected on the enormity of what they had uncovered. The cult's shadow had loomed over Blackwood Forest for years, but with Emery's arrest, a significant chapter had come to an end. Yet, the scars left behind, on survivors, families, and the community, would take much longer to heal. The case was far from over. The investigation continued to unravel the full scope of the cult's activities and the hidden horrors within the forest. But for the first time in decades, there was hope, a chance to break the cycle of silence and begin the journey toward justice and healing. The early morning mist clung to the dense underbrush as Detective Sarah Mitchell led the tactical team through the winding trails of Blackwood Forest. The air was thick with tension, every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs magnified by the weight of anticipation. For years, the forest had been a silent witness to horrors hidden beneath its canopy, but today, that silence was about to be broken. The target was a secluded compound concealed deep within the forest's labyrinthine heart, a place whispered about in local legends and hinted at in recovered journals and testimonies. It was here that Emery Talcott, the enigmatic and ruthless leader of the cult, was believed to orchestrate his twisted ceremonies and hold captives in a state of perpetual fear. As the team approached the compound, Sarah's mind raced through the fragments of evidence collected over months. The recovered tapes of Emma Collins' desperate pleas, the chilling diary of Hannah Claire, the ritualistic artifacts, and the testimonies of those who had escaped the cult's grasp. Each piece had led them to this moment, a chance to end the nightmare and bring survivors to safety. The raid began swiftly. Officers moved with practiced precision, breaching the perimeter and securing the area before Emery's followers could mount a coordinated defense. The compound was a grim sanctuary, a collection of makeshift cabins and underground chambers, their walls lined with symbols etched in a meticulous but sinister hand. The air inside was heavy with the scent of burning candles and damp earth, a physical reminder of the dark rituals that had taken place. Inside the main cabin, Sarah found Emery Talcott himself, a man whose calm demeanor belied the cruelty etched into his history. He met her gaze with a chilling smile, unrepentant, and composed as he was handcuffed and led away. Surrounding him were several survivors, their eyes wide with exhaustion and relief, some too fragile to speak, yet conveying volumes through their silence. Among the rescued was a young woman who bore a striking resemblance to Emma Collins, her features familiar and haunting. She was identified as Claire's niece, a distant relative of Emma who had been lured into the cult's fold years earlier and held captive within the compound. Her rescue was a poignant reminder of the cult's generational reach and the enduring cycle of victimization. As survivors were escorted to safety, their testimonies began to unfold a harrowing narrative of captivity and psychological torment. They spoke of isolation in dark chambers, forced participation in rituals that blurred the lines between fear and faith, and the constant presence of Emery and his lieutenants enforcing obedience through terror. The cult's twisted belief system had ensnared them, convincing them that their suffering was a necessary sacrifice to preserve the forest's secrets. Emery, during interrogation, revealed a chilling rationale for his actions. He framed the disappearances and rituals as a means to protect Blackwood Forest from external threats, painting himself as a guardian of ancient knowledge. His calm, calculated explanations belied the depth of his fanaticism and the profound manipulation he wielded over his followers. The survivors' accounts detailed the cult's hierarchical structure, with Emery at its apex and figures like Edgar Hale serving as enforcers and ritual specialists. The Watcher, once a shadowy enigma, was identified as Emery himself, a master manipulator who had maintained control through fear, secrecy, and psychological domination. The raid not only disrupted the cult's operations, but also uncovered evidence linking the group to numerous cold cases across the region. Items recovered from the compound, photographs, personal belongings, and cryptic notes, corroborated the long-held suspicions that the disappearances were systemic and orchestrated. For Sarah and her team, the operation was both a professional victory and a deeply personal one. The faces of the survivors, their resilience amid trauma, underscored the human cost of the investigation. Each rescue was a testament to the power of persistence and the refusal to let darkness prevail. In the days following the raid, Sarah worked closely with victim support services to ensure the survivors received medical care, counseling, and safe housing. The psychological scars ran deep, and the path to healing would be long and fraught with challenges. Yet, amidst the pain, there was a flicker of hope, a chance to reclaim lives stolen by fear and silence. The community reacted with a mixture of shock and relief. The revelation of the cult's existence and its atrocities shattered the veneer of safety long associated with Blackwood Forest. Yet, there was also a collective resolve to confront the past and support those affected. Memorials were planned, and conversations about prevention and awareness began to take root. For Claire Collins, the rescue of her niece was a bittersweet moment. It brought a measure of closure, but also reopened wounds that had never fully healed. She became an advocate for survivors, determined to ensure their stories were heard and that the darkness that had gripped Blackwood was fully exposed. Sarah, reflecting on the case's trajectory, recognized the complexity of the forces at play. Human cruelty intertwined with myth and belief, the forest as both a physical and symbolic battleground. The investigation had peeled back layers of deception and fear, revealing a network of pain and resilience. While Emery Talcott's arrest marked a significant turning point, Sarah knew the journey toward justice and healing was far from over. The survivors' testimonies would fuel ongoing prosecutions, and the dismantling of the cult's remnants required vigilance and dedication. As the forest slowly began to shed its shadows, the story of Blackwood's victims became a beacon, a reminder that even in the darkest places, courage and truth could prevail. The raid was not just an end but a beginning, a chance to rebuild, remember, and reclaim what had been lost. The arrest of Emery Talcott and the dismantling of the cult's compound marked a turning point for Blackwood Forest and the communities shadowed by decades of fear and unanswered questions. In the weeks that followed, law enforcement agencies worked tirelessly to piece together the full scope of the network's activities, poring over evidence recovered from the compound and other related sites. The cataloged items, photographs, journals, ritual paraphernalia, and personal effects of the victims provided a chilling testament to the cult's systematic abductions and abuse. Prosecutors filed charges not only against Emery, but also against several key members of the cult's inner circle, including Edgar Hale, whose earlier arrest had paved the way for the operation. The indictments covered a range of offenses: kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, assault, and multiple counts of conspiracy to commit murder. The legal battle was expected to be prolonged and complex, but it offered the first real hope for justice in a string of cold cases that had long haunted the region. Detective Sarah Mitchell found herself at the center of a media storm, her efforts lauded for bringing the cult's horrors to light. Yet behind the accolades lay a profound awareness of the trauma inflicted on the survivors and their families. She worked closely with victim advocates and mental health professionals to ensure that those who had endured captivity received the support and care essential for healing. Survivors began to share their stories publicly, breaking the silence that had enveloped the cult's victims for so long. Their testimonies revealed the depths of psychological manipulation and physical abuse they had suffered, as well as the resilience that had carried them through captivity. Each narrative was a testament to human endurance and the will to reclaim life after darkness. Among these stories, the voices of Emma Collins' family resonated deeply. Though Emma's body was never recovered, the discovery of her belongings and recorded pleas had provided a measure of closure. Claire Collins, Emma's sister, became a vocal advocate for survivors and families affected by the cult's crimes, channeling her grief into action. She worked tirelessly to establish support networks and raise awareness about the dangers of such secretive groups. The community grappled with the revelation that the cult had operated for decades, hidden in plain sight. Town halls and public forums became spaces for dialogue, where residents shared their fears, hopes, and determination to prevent similar tragedies. Local authorities implemented new measures to monitor the forest and educate the public about safety and vigilance. Sarah reflected on the psychological scars borne not only by the victims, but also by the community at large. The cult's influence had permeated beyond its immediate victims, sowing distrust and fear. The process of rebuilding trust and fostering healing would require time, empathy, and sustained commitment from all involved. The investigation also shed light on systemic failures, how fear, stigma, and disbelief had allowed the cult to flourish unchecked. Law enforcement agencies reviewed protocols for handling missing persons and reports of suspicious activity, working to improve responsiveness and interagency cooperation. The Blackwood case became a catalyst for broader reforms aimed at protecting vulnerable populations and disrupting clandestine networks. During the trials, Sarah testified extensively, her detailed accounts of the investigation and the evidence uncovered providing critical support for the prosecution's case. The courtroom became a battleground where the cult's dark legacy was confronted openly, and survivors had the opportunity to reclaim their voices. As verdicts were delivered, a sense of justice, though imperfect, began to settle over the region. Emery Talcott received multiple life sentences, and his co-conspirators faced lengthy prison terms. The ruling sent a powerful message that such crimes, no matter how deeply hidden, would not go unpunished. Yet, amidst the legal victories, Sarah understood that justice was only one part of a broader journey toward restoration. The survivors' healing, the families' grieving, and the community's recovery were ongoing processes, fragile but vital. Memorials were established near the edge of Blackwood Forest, honoring those lost and symbolizing resilience against the darkness that had once consumed so many lives. These spaces became places of reflection, remembrance, and communal support, a testament to the strength found in confronting painful truths. The story of Emma Collins, Luke Harper, Hannah Claire, and countless others joined the collective memory of the community, serving as both a warning and a beacon. Their experiences underscored the importance of breaking the silence surrounding abduction, abuse, and secret societies, inspiring vigilance and compassion. Detective Mitchell continued to advocate for survivors beyond the case, using her platform to promote awareness and reform. The Blackwood investigation, while harrowing, reinforced her belief in the power of perseverance and the necessity of confronting darkness to foster light. As the forest slowly shed its sinister reputation, the community embraced a cautious optimism. Blackwood was no longer just a place of mystery and fear. It was a site of resilience, healing, and hope. The scars remained, but so did the determination to build a safer, more transparent future. The journey had been long and painful, but it was far from over. The legacy of the investigation and the courage of those involved would continue to shape the region's path forward, a reminder that even in the deepest shadows, the human spirit could endure, resist, and ultimately prevail. The morning sun filtered softly through the towering pines at the edge of Blackwood Forest, illuminating a newly dedicated memorial that stood as both a tribute and a testament. Families, friends, survivors, and community members gathered quietly, their faces marked by sorrow, hope, and the resilient strength forged through years of pain and uncertainty. The memorial was a simple yet profound space, a circle of engraved stones, each bearing the names of those lost or forever changed by the darkness that had once gripped the forest. Among the crowd, Claire Collins stood with a steady gaze, her hand resting gently on the polished stone etched with her sister Emma's name. It was a moment she had long envisioned, a tangible acknowledgement of a life interrupted, a story that had once been whispered in fearful silence now given voice and honor. The memorial was not just for the victims, but for the survivors and the community striving to heal. Detective Sarah Mitchell, standing nearby, watched as the gathered faces reflected a collective commitment to remembrance and resilience. The investigation that had spanned decades, uncovering layers of mystery, cruelty, and courage, had culminated in this moment of recognition, a symbol that the shadows no longer held dominion over Blackwood. Speakers shared stories of bravery and loss, weaving together narratives that had once been fragmented and hidden. Survivors spoke of the long journey toward healing, acknowledging the scars that remained, but also the support and solidarity that had made survival possible. Families expressed gratitude for the closure and justice achieved, while honoring the enduring memory of those who had vanished into the forest's depths. The memorial's establishment marked a turning point, not just in the community's relationship with Blackwood Forest, but in the broader understanding of the importance of confronting and breaking cycles of silence. It was a public commitment to vigilance, compassion, and the refusal to allow fear to dictate the future. Local leaders announced initiatives aimed at education and prevention, ensuring that the lessons learned from the investigation would inform future efforts to protect vulnerable individuals and communities. Programs to foster awareness about cult dynamics, psychological manipulation, and community support were launched, reflecting a proactive approach to safeguarding against similar tragedies. Sarah continued her work beyond the memorial, advocating for survivors and collaborating with law enforcement and mental health professionals to improve responses to such crimes. The case had transformed her, deepening her resolve to confront darkness wherever it lurked and to amplify the voices of those too often silenced. As the ceremony concluded, the crowd dispersed slowly, many pausing to touch the stones, to leave flowers, or to exchange quiet words of comfort. The forest's edge, once a boundary between fear and the unknown, now felt like a place of shared strength and hope. Blackwood Forest itself seemed to breathe differently, no longer just a repository of dark secrets, but a landscape reclaimed by the community's courage and determination. The stories of Emma, Luke, Hannah, and countless others had become part of the forest's living memory, honored and remembered. The healing process, Sarah knew, would continue for years to come. The scars left by trauma and loss would never fully fade, but the memorial symbolized a collective commitment to resilience and renewal. It was a beacon for families still searching for peace and a promise that the past shadows would not define the future. In the quiet that followed the ceremony, Sarah took a moment alone at the edge of the forest, her eyes tracing the path where the investigation had begun so many years ago. The journey had been arduous, marked by moments of despair and hope intertwined. But standing there, she felt a profound sense of purpose, a conviction that facing the unknown, breaking the silence, and seeking truth were acts of courage that could transform even the darkest mysteries. The story of Blackwood Forest was no longer one of fear and disappearance, but of endurance, justice, and the unyielding human spirit. The memorial stood as a testament to that truth, a place where memory and hope converged, lighting a path forward for all who would walk beneath the trees. And as the wind stirred the leaves, carrying the soft murmur of voices past and present. The forest held its secrets no longer in silence, but in remembrance, healing, and the promise of a new dawn.